Hello and welcome to Sansad TV. India today boasts one of the largest synchronized power grid systems in the world, witnessing transmission lines expansion reaching a total of over 4 lakh circuit kilometers. The power sector operates on 4 key pillars: fuel, generation, transmission and distribution. As India works towards its ambitious goal of achieving 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030, the efficiency and modernization of our transmission network will be crucial. With the unified grid system now in place, India is transitioning towards a smart grid, integrating advanced technology to enhance efficiency and reliability. Today, we explore the role of power transmission in shaping India's energy future. And to discuss this, we are joined in the studio by a distinguished panel of experts. Mr. G.P. Upadhyay, current Director General of the Energy Power Transmission Association, EPTA. Welcome, sir. We're delighted to have you with us today. Dr. Srikant Nagulapalli is an IAS officer and additional secretary in the Ministry of Power. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for being with us today. Mr. Naveen Munjal is Director, Business Development and Commercial at Apraava Energy. He brings to the table insights from the private sector's role in power transmission. Welcome, sir. Pleasure to have you here with us today. Mr. Upadhyay, I would like to begin with you. What the transmission sector actually does and how it brings electricity to our homes. Could you explain it for us and our viewers, please?
Yeah, so it's a very basic but very important question, I must say, because people generally focus more on production and the power coming to their houses. लेकिन जो बिजली पैदा होती है हमारे कंट्री के डिफरेंट पार्ट्स में, उसको जहाँ पे उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट है वहाँ तक ले जाना इज़ अ वेरी टेक्निकल एंड वेरी वेरी क्रिटिकल जॉब. आई वुड लाइक टू से हियर दैट द रोल ऑफ पावर ट्रांसमिशन in India becoming one of the largest economies in the world and even realizing the dream of 500 gigawatt of solar power by or non-renewable power by 2030 is very, very critical. And that's why we are all here to discuss this very important aspect, and with the focus of the government on various policy reforms and role of private sector, I am sure this goal shall be achieved by a joint effort of all of us.
Thank you, sir. I would like to move on to Dr. Srikant. I'd like to ask you, sir, can you, for context, the transmission system in our country, the grid system, has come a very long way in the past 15 years. We have a unified grid system and we are moving towards a smart system. So can you explain to us that entire journey of where we were and where we are now and where we intend to go?
If you see, India originally had different regional grids. We had 5 regional grids. These were operating at 5 different frequencies. So starting from 1991, the integration or unifying these different regional grids had started. The power grid was set up in 1989. After the Power Grid Corporation was set up, this unification process started, and with the integration of Leh area in January 2019, the integration process got completed, and today we have a unified national grid functioning as one nation, one grid, one frequency. So we have under this network the interstate transmission network, which is owned by the central government, and we have various state networks, which are the intrastate networks. This grid operates up to a level of 765 kilovolts and also has high voltage direct current lines. So it's a very diverse and complex network that we have. We have come a long way. Now we can transfer power seamlessly from surplus regions to deficit areas at all times of the day.
Thank you, sir.
In fact, I just wanted to add to that.
Yes.
I distinctly remember there used to be many occasions when because of the lack of connectivity of these regional grids, you would have cheaper power available at pithead stations and yet not have the requisite connectivity to transport it to load centers, and the load centers therefore had to pay for more expensive power. So with this one grid, the synchronization of one grid, it has come a really long way.
So continuing with that question, Mr. Munjal, I'd like to ask you, while our other panelists are from the working with the public sector.
Right.
You as a representative or sort of coming from the private sector, how do you view the challenges of this transmission sector, and what are some ways that you perceive are the solutions to those problems?
Well, in fairness, every business has a challenge, and we've had our share of challenges in transmission. And I must hasten to add that the government has been very, very quick to address some of the challenges that we face. There is obviously always room for improvement, and some of the challenges that we face, I would like to just probably spend a couple of minutes on that. One, the problem that besets pretty much all the parts of the electricity chain, the land and the rights of ways issues. We have very, very tardy progress on some of these issues, given the uncertainty around acquisition of land and the acquisition of rights of ways. There has been substantial progress, but a lot more progress actually will need to be made with the empowerment of the local agencies, and those numbers, being decided by them for compensation being the final numbers. As long as there is some clarity on the cost pass through, this is one of the biggest challenges for the private players. Then there are other challenges vis-a-vis equipment availability. We've had a lot of projects being bunched over the last few years. A lot of bidding has happened, which has meant that the equipment providers are running out of capacities. And we also have limitations on importation of equipment from countries which are surplus, especially with land border countries. So maybe we could have some resolution on those restrictions which are there, maybe at a pro tem kind of a measure, while the industry, the local industry, is able to catch up. That is one. The third aspect, of course, is that transmission planning needs to precede setting up of generation. What is sometimes happening is that a lot of capacity is set up, or beginning, or it begins to be set up, yet there is no visibility of the transmission evacuation coming in place. So that matching of transmission capacity along with the setting up of generation is very important. Obviously, the government is seized of the matter, and this is being done at the highest levels, but we could do a lot more work in that area. Thank you.
Dr. Srikant, I'd like to ask you, as you're presently, serving as the Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Power, which is doing a lot towards this, finding solutions to the problems that we are seeing, as Mr. Munjal has mentioned. What is the government doing to address some of the issues that have been mentioned by Mr. Munjal?
The three main issues Mr. Munjal has raised: the ROW right-of-way issues, then the supply chain concerns, and also matching the generation with transmission. All these three concerns, the ministry has recognized and is actively engaged with these. Insofar as right-of-way is concerned, the renewable energy areas are located in a few pockets in the country, and we are required to evacuate this power and take to distant cities and industries. So we are required to lay a lot of these transmission lines, and unlike these thermal generators, the utilization of these lines are only 25% compared to over 65%. So we are required to lay longer distances of lines and more lines from these in order to evacuate the same amount of energy. So this is giving rise to a lot of ROW issues from the landowners. Recognizing this, the Ministry of Power last year in 2024 had increased the compensation. They have revised their guidelines, and today we have enhanced the compensation for the tower base area from 85% of the land value to twice the land value, and in the corridor we have doubled the compensation that we are giving from 15% to 30%, and we have also linked the value of the land to the market value. So all these three are critical interventions, and many of the state governments where these lines are being laid, they have adopted these guidelines issued by the Ministry of Power. And just yesterday we have issued guidelines as to how to finalize or fix the land values. The methodology for fixing the land values also has been finalized and released. So this is in order to ease the right of way concerns, and we hold very regular meetings to review these issues, both with the state governments as well as various stakeholders, and also the transmission service providers. So that's one part of it, and another part coming to the supply chain. Because of the target that we have 500 gigawatts by 2030, a lot of the transmission capacities are required. So whatever clean energy that we are talking about, the heart of that clean energy is transmission. So the non-fossil energy has to necessarily flow through wires, these big wires. So there is a lot of demand for the CRGO steel, which is quite critical in making these transformers. So the issue that is raised, we have for the time being addressed that issue, and we'll support the industry and ensure that these supply chains are smooth and supplies are eased out in the interest of our targets. And coming to the matching between the generation and transmission, if in the earlier days when a thermal power plant was set up, the thermal plant would take at least 5 years for constructing. So the transmission line would take about 2 to 3 years. So we had adequate time to develop these transmission lines. Now compare that with the RE projects. Generally a solar project or a wind project takes about 2 years to 3 years, whereas 2 years, let's say. The transmission lines also take about 2 to 3 years, given the constraints of ROW or the concerns from landowners. So there is like a neck-to-neck race between these two, and at the same time we don't want the transmission line to remain idle before the generation comes up, because in that case the consumers, everybody in this country, all the consumers will be paying for that transmission line. So it's a delicate balance, and we ensure that there is a matching which happens on a continuous basis.
Thank you.
इसमें मैं एक बात ऐड करना चाहूँगा यहाँ पे जो श्रीकांत जी ने बताई कि जो राइट ऑफ वे इश्यूज़ हैं, कोई भी जब लाइन बनती है इंटर स्टेट, तो उसमें सबसे जो बड़ा इशू आता है वो राइट ऑफ वे का ही आता है। और इस प्रोग्राम के माध्यम से मैं सारे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को ये रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूँगा कि जैसे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का प्रगति पोर्टल है, जिस पे हम सारे क्रिटिकल इश्यूज़ को रिजॉल्व कर लेते हैं बड़े बड़े प्रोजेक्ट्स के, वैसे ही चीफ मिनिस्टर्स के लेवल पे एक अगर वॉर रूम या कोई इस तरह से कोई सेल बन जाए जो इन सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स को रिव्यू करे। आई मीन ट्रांसमिशन के साथ साथ और भी प्रोजेक्ट्स होंगे जिनको रिव्यू किया जा सकता है, और उसमें अगर कहीं कोई डिफ़िकल्टी आ रही है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का रोल बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। सो इट्स वेरी वेरी क्रिटिकल, and if they are eased, I think that would make the job much easier. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to exactly the same thing. The federal government is doing much more than what one would expect. The state governments now need to step up, because at the end of the day, they are beneficiaries of this power. And while obviously the grid is the federal grid, it's the interstate grid, the beneficiaries, of course, ultimately are all the states. So they need to recognize that if a project is being set up, then they need to facilitate. And if people are holding the project company to ransom and seeking compensation which is disproportionate to what has been prescribed, then I think there needs to be some resolution at the level of the state government. And as Mr. Upadhyay rightly said, we will request for more intervention by the state governments.
There's a very relevant matter that you have raised, and continuing with Mr. Munjal's line of thought, there is a greater participation of the private entities in the, like the government is seeking private participation in this capitally intensive industry, which is the transmission sector. Mr. Upadhyay, I would like to ask you, with the greater participation of the private sector, what is the EPTA? How does the EPTA help the private sector in terms of participating? Does it help towards creating a level playing field with the government, or how do you view the role of the EPTA?
Thanks for this question. EPTA is an association of the industry, and it's a group of companies, large companies which are involved in power transmission in this country. So, as the role of any industry association, EPTA's job is to have advocacy with the Ministry of Power and with all relevant authorities in government, so that their job is made easier, a level playing field is created, and their participation is enabled properly through policy interventions. So, as you have mentioned, I would like to tell the viewers that in the next about, let's say, 7-8 years, we are envisaging investment of almost $100 billion in power transmission, and there will be a great role being which shall be played by the private sector. So, our job is to ensure that the bottlenecks that are coming, for example, I mentioned about war room at the level of Chief Minister in every state, and Srikant mentioned about right of way issues, how to resolve them, and how to make it easier for them to factor the cost in the transmission line cost if there is an increase in the land price and all that. Similarly, putting the projects to there is a term called TBCB, tariff based competitive bidding. So, putting the projects for a competitive bidding among all the players. So, all these issues are taken into consideration by EPTA while going for the advocacy, and I must say here, mention here that Ministry of Power has been extremely cooperative and supportive, and Government of India and largely the state governments, they are in the favor of ensuring that there is a level playing field, and because once we have more participation by private sector players, there is more efficiency, and ultimately the benefit goes to consumers. So, I always tell my friends in the industry that whatever we do, unless it benefits the common man on the ground, unless he gets a reliable supply of power at an affordable rate, it is of no use. So, by doing all this, I am happy to inform that it is being enabled very appropriately by the ministry and other authorities.
Dr. Srikant, a very important point has been raised both by Mr. Munjal and Mr. Upadhyay, and it pertains to coordination. I think we could sum it up as coordination, which is a very crucial aspect in this sector, and not just between the public and the private sector, but also between states, because you have a lot of lines that are, as you mentioned, with renewable energy coming up, you have a lot of lines that will be crossing state borders. It's always been a problem. So, towards this, what is the government doing to, ensure grid stability and then reliability as well in, and also ensuring coordination and cooperation between, all these different players that we have right now?
As I've already said, the grid comprises the central grid as well as the state networks. So, when the ISTS lines cross states, we have issues which come up at the local level. We have a system where we hold regular meetings almost on a fortnightly basis with the district administration and the state authorities to resolve issues as and when they come up. That is at the operational level, and at the policy level, if there is any issue in terms of fixation of land rates or any policy that needs to be put in place, then we engage with the state government concerned, and we ensure that the issue is resolved. And many of the states where the works are happening, this has been done, and also at the PMG project monitoring group level also, large projects above 500 crores are monitored at the central government level. There too we have transmission projects where there are issues which we are unable to resolve. They are taken up there for resolution.
Continuing with this line of thought, I'd like to ask you, finance is always an issue in any sector that you talk about, it all comes down to money. So, Dr. Srikant, generation of revenue is vital for any sector, and with such a capital intensive sector like the transmission sector, how are we realizing sustainability and also stability of the system, and what are the ways we can improve financial asset management, if there are any?
If you see, prior to 2016, most of the central or ISTS projects were being taken up by Power Grid on a nomination basis, but starting from 2016, in line with the tariff policy of 2016, which says that all the ISTS projects normally they have to be taken up through bidding route, and also at the state level thresholds have to be fixed, and projects costing beyond that threshold have to be bid out. So, the Electricity Act also 2003 says that the competition is a central feature in generation, transmission or distribution. So, towards that, in line with that, the central government has introduced tariff based competitive bidding for the ISTS projects, and today we have of the total ISTS network, about 15% of the network has been built by private transmission service providers, and they are operating the network. And if you see the last year's or the current year's numbers, close to 50% of the network is being built by transmission service providers who are privately owned. These the revenues of these transmission service providers are assured over a period of 35 years. They maintain that network, and then at the end of 35 years they transfer it back to the central transmission utility on behalf of the central government. They would be handling those. A similar system we have been asking the states to implement, and almost 26 states and union territories have notified their thresholds, and states like Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, they have already started going for bids for their transmission projects. So, the state utilities or the state transmission company will not be required to put upfront equity. The private investor would put in that equity, and going forward this is a very good way to expand the transmission grid at the state level, because right now we have as you rightly said, we have 4.9 lakh circuit kilometers of the network. Almost 40% of this network has been built over the last 1 decade, and going forward we have to add another almost significant amount, and we have to reach 6.5 lakh circuit kilometers by 2032. So, a lot of this network has to be built in states. So, it is in our interest that the states quickly adopt the tariff based competitive bidding, and we are also encouraging the states to monetize their assets, so that they get the required revenues to invest as equity. So, these are certain measures that we are taking.
Mr. Munjal, anything that you would like to add to this?
No, in fact, just to supplement what has happened with the TBCB, the tariff-based competitive bidding coming in, the discovered tariffs are, as per a CII report, it's not something coming from me, are about 30% lower than what they were under the regulated tariff regime. So, therefore, it is in the interest of all the consumers, the industry at large, that more and more TBCB projects come into the market, and less and less projects are awarded on a cost plus basis, so that at the end of the day everybody can benefit.
Okay, this is a question that I would like to throw open to all my three panelists. This is the decade of artificial intelligence. That's the buzzword. It is affecting every aspect of our lives, and so the question I want to ask is, will or does AI play a role in in transmission, in power transmission, and how are we doing anything towards enabling it, or do we need a system to help us enable it, or will it be for the better, or is it a threat? So I would like to throw this question to all my three panelists, if you have any thoughts on that.
Maybe I can take a stab at it. Clearly, preventive maintenance will be one area where we can do a lot with AI. Another area where, when it comes to surveying, drone surveys in conjunction with AI, will give us a very good sense of what the terrain is like, and therefore help us in planning what we need to roll out. So, these are a immediate couple of thoughts which I thought are clearly going to work very well with AI.
I will just pitch in what Mr. Munjal has just said in a very simple language. What I would like to say is that AI का use आजकल हर जगह बढ़ता जा रहा है, and AI is going to be immensely beneficial to any sector if it is used properly. And as he mentioned about predictive maintenance or having a surveillance on that. See, network is very large, as we have seen, about 5 lakh kilometers, and going to be 6.5 lakh kilometers in the next about 7, 8 years. So running across the length and breadth of the country. So I think it will be very, very useful for the for the purpose of maintaining that network and pointing out any possible things that may happen in the future, some flaws or some disruptions which might occur in the future. So using AI for any system would be beneficial, for grid maintenance, for predictive maintenance, for predicting something which is going to happen in the future and has the potential of throwing the thing out of gear. I think it has got a huge role.
Dr. Srikant,
it is just evolving.
Dr. Srikant, in this vein, I'd like to ask you that they both have given the benefits of implementing AI, but I think the maintenance will fall on you, on the ministry and the public sector. So, will it be, now that we have a unified system, will it pose more security threats, and will it be a larger headache for the grid system? What do you think?
I would say AI has very good use cases, and Power Grid has already started exploring the use of AI, especially as has been pointed out. It can precisely locate where the wear and tear happens in towers or the transmission lines, or within the substation where the transformer is likely to fail. These can be predicted and the crews dispatched, and even after failure it can precisely pinpoint where the failure has happened. So that's one part of it, and another part of it is how the demand and supply is managed on a minute to minute basis. So generally the load dispatch centers predict the electricity demand on a 24-hour basis a day ahead. So predicting the electricity demand, next day's electricity demand, hourly electricity demand, AI can do a very good job in predicting that. And with a lot of integration of solar and wind into our system, the prediction of this generation also becomes very important. So once the demand and the solar and wind generation are predicted accurately, it becomes easy for the load dispatcher or the system operator to plan his system for the next day. So it has immense benefits. And coming to cyber security also, it can in advance identify threats and then enable us to preemptively handle or tackle these threats. So it has a lot of use cases.
And on that note, special thanks to our esteemed guests for joining us today, and thank you to our viewers for your time. That's it from us. Have a great day.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.